Inshallah, in today's khutbah, we'll reflect on the Surah ASR from the Quran. The Surah has so many lessons, so many things that we can learn. The scholar says that if you just contemplate on the Surah alone, you'll get a lot of understanding, you'll get the guidance. Now, the Surah was revealed in Mecca, but some of the scholars like Qatada, Mujahid, they said that the surah is a Madani surah. The surah was revealed at a time when Allah Azza wa Jal wanted to grab the attention of the people of Mecca in a very eloquent way, in a very short, concise manner, so that the people will get the message of Islam and they will understand that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he is conveying to them is nothing but the truth. So he would send down this revelation, very short, to the point, so that people get the point, people get the guidance. Some of the scholars, again, they said this was a Madani surah, but it was revealed in Mecca. This is the majority of the scholars they agree on. Inshallah, before we go into each of the verses, I want to mention you something about this surah, which is I found very amazing. You can look at it as something that has a structural miracle in the Quran, in this few verses. If you look into this surah, the first and the last verse, Wal Asr, and the last one, Sabr, wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. The first verse and the last verse, Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about this dunya. The time, you have the concept of time in this dunya. There is nothing called time, morning, evening, night in Jannah, in Akhirah. So Allah Azza wa Jal is telling us that the concept of time, that He's swearing the oath by the time, is applicable in this dunya, just like the patience, the sabr, you have to have it in dunya. When something goes wrong, when something bad happens to us, we have to have the patience and wait for the reward from Allah Azza wa Jal. Now if you look at the second verse of the surah, Innal insana lafi khusr. This khusr, the loss, can happen in Akhirah. So one of the names we find on the day of judgment, for the day of judgment, is that this is a day, Yawmul Hasr, that this is a day of regret. Whether you are a believer, whether you are a non-believer, everybody on that day will regret. Why? Because the believer will regret they could do more. The disbelievers, they will regret they could believe in the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if you look at the second verse, it talks about wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr. So the haqq, the truth, is what? Is the day of judgment, is the Jannah, is the nar. So the second verse from the beginning and the second last verse is talking about, Allah Azza wa Jal is talking about Akhirah. But the main point of this surah is what is in between these two, this dunya and the Akhirah. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilus salihat, those who believe and do righteous good deeds. So Allah Azza wa Jal He's as if telling us that if you want to be successful both in this dunya and also in Akhirah, you have to believe and do righteous good deeds. So this is something amazing about this surah. If you look at the structure, the way Allah has structured this surah to us for our understanding. But that is not the reason why today I will be talking to you about. The main point of today's reminder, inshallah, would be how we can contemplate on each of these verses so that we can apply them in our life. Number one is, dear brothers and sisters, Wal Asr innal insana lafi khusr. Allah is swearing by the time that everybody is at loss. Now there can be two different meaning of why Allah will swear by the time. Number one is to show the time, the importance of time. Everything that we do in our life, it all depends how we use our time. So you find that in some of the universities they have this time management course. The concept of time is so important that without this you cannot measure anything. Whether you're productive at work, how long you lived, how long you worked for a company, everything is measured by the time to find out its actual result. The time, Allah is also swearing by the time to show us that this is the single most important thing for us as a human being. No matter how righteous you are, no matter how sinful you are, no matter how much money we have, or no matter how poor the person is, nobody can buy time. And everybody has equal time every single day. So if someone could buy time, somebody is millionaire, they could not do it. So Allah Azza wa Jal is telling us by swearing by the time that every one of us here, dear brothers and sisters, with the passing of time, we are losing something that we cannot buy, we cannot, exchange it with even our good deeds. وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. And dear brothers and sisters, the question today is, what are we doing with the time? We see that a lot of the time, brothers and sisters, they don't care. This is a amana from Allah Azza wa Jal, but we have taken it for granted. Most of our time, even if you think about the things that you have done in the month of Ramadan, you will see that we spend most of our time to entertain ourselves. Whether it is social media, whether it is watching movies, or whether it's anything. Whether playing sports, or maybe sleeping. Today we have this huge problem, with the advance of technology and all that made our life so easy. Instead of using it for our akhirah, unfortunately we are using it for this dunya. And I'm holding myself responsible for that, first of all. We have, brothers, I mentioned this in a previous khutbah, that when it comes to, for Ramadan, how you kill your time, like what do you do most of the time? It's just like a movie time, just gonna watch something on YouTube, or just wanna watch something on TV, and that's all I want to do, just to kill my time so that I can, go to the iftar and break my fast and feel good. Or somebody will just sleep all day, just to wake up for the iftar, just for the the food and the drink, and that's it. That's their Ramadan. And this concept can be applied outside Ramadan too. If you think about our lifestyle, the way we live, dear brothers and sisters, is we are just wasting our time without any account. So Allah Azza wa Jal is telling us, the time I gave you, you have to take care of that. It's not something you can earn. It's not something for your entertainment only. And then Allah Azza wa Jal goes on to say, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. Now the people who are at loss, the people who are at loss all the time, there are some exception. And their exception is for those people who believe and does righteous good deeds. And dear brothers and sisters, we see that a lot of the time when we have Muslims, mashallah, very good name, they have Islamic name, and the person's name is Muhammad, but when it comes to prayer, Muhammad is not there. So naming yourself with a beautiful Islamic name, claiming that you are a Muslim is not enough. And Allah Azza wa Jal in the Quran, if you read the verses, every time Allah says that you have to believe, then Allah will join those with that you have to now take action. And dear brothers and sisters, this is again a big problem with us. We do not do enough. We have, being so arrogant with our belief that only Muslims will go to Jannah, and that's it. As long as you say kalima and you stay at home, that's all you have to do. And this is a big disease. We find people, name their kids with a name that you never heard before. They will read the entire Quran to find a beautiful Islamic name. But when it comes to practicing, when it comes to becoming a role model, we find lackings in them. So Allah Azza wa Jal is telling us that you have to believe, and then you have to do the good deeds, the righteous good deeds. إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ. Then you have to advise people to truth. Now, in the beginning I mentioned, dear brothers and sisters, the truth is Jannah. The haqq is the nar. The haqq is Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is haqq. Maut is haqq. And in this, we find again a lot of problems. You hardly hear someone will, when you talk to them, you will hardly hear someone reminding you about the akhirah. When you come to the masjid, subhanAllah, even if you come to the masjid, they talk about business. They talk about how much money they made. And this is again a very, very common disease. The person we want to talk the last is a person who reminds us about Allah Azza wa Jal. In fact, that would come later. We need to find out how much money you make. If the person is poor and he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have a nice house, and he comes to me and talks to me about Islam, I'm not going to listen to him. It is as if his worldly gains, his worldly money qualifies himself to be a da'i. So we try to avoid those people, we try to avoid those gatherings where people are talking to us about our haqq. And also haqq, the scholar have interpreted that it can mean in this worldly sense. When you stand up for the oppressed one, when you stand up with the truth, when you become honest with your dealings, when you don't lie, when you do not cheat with other people. But unfortunately, dear brothers and sisters, the Muslims, if you look at the statistics, the record, you'll see that most of the Muslim countries are corrupted more than non-Muslim countries. So we do not, and that is because we do not remind each other enough, or we do not take action enough. Whichever it is, we need to take action, we need to pay heed, because Allah Azza wa Jalla is talking to us. These verses, this surah that were revealed in Mecca to address the people of Mecca is also addressing you and me right now here today. So inshallah, in the later part of the khutbah, we'll talk about the sabr, and we ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to accept from all of us. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla to forgive us our sin. Astaghfirullah innahu wal ghafurur rahim fastaghfiruh.
Brother, please move forward a little bit, okay? There's a lot of people here.
Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. As I mentioned, dear brothers and sisters, in the beginning, that this surah has so many gems, so many lessons that we can learn. Imam Razi, one of the scholars of Islam, he said that one day I went to the marketplace. He went to the bazaar, to see how people are selling their products. And he came across a guy, a vendor, who was selling ice. So he had this ice pack, and he was telling people that, oh, people, have mercy on the one whose wealth is melting. So Imam Razi, he said that I learned about the Surah ASR from him, that everything that we possess is actually going away. The beauty that you have, the money you have, the wealth you have, the kids you have, everything is losing its, some form, is whether you're losing money, whether you're losing the beauty of how you look, something you're losing every day, every single moment, just because of the concept of time. And Allah Azza wa Jal, at the end, He talks about the sabr. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ, they advise each other for haqq, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and advise each other to have patience. And subhanAllah, in the month of Ramadan, if you go to the masajid, and if you go for iftar or if you go for tarawih, you will see that the rush that the Muslims have. And again, this is something that I'm holding myself responsible first. They don't have time, when it comes to eating the food, they're rushing. When it comes to go back home, they're rushing. Everywhere, people are just, all the time in a hurry. And sometimes we make dua to Allah Azza wa Jal in the month of Ramadan, and we act in a way that we... Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you so much for watching this video. Make a comment. Do not forget, you can like this video, you can subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and please do not forget, again, subscribe to this channel, and I will see you next time. Assalamu alaikum.